Instantly seizing the center, this pawn thrust claims valuable space and prepares to develop your pieces into the heart of the action. Mirroring white's central ambition immediately stakes a claim in the heart of the board, creating a classic symmetrical pawn structure that opens lines for piece development. Gambiting pawn for central initiative and aggressive king attack is a double-edged sword. Boldly seizing central space, black challenges white's aggressive king's gambit with a decisive pawn thrust, aiming to disrupt white's attack and open lines. Opening the center like this offers immediate attacking chances, but invites counterplay on the open files. Unyielding, black challenges the pawn's advance, aiming to disrupt white's central grip and open lines. Developing knights efficiently centralizes pieces and prepares to contest the crucial d4 square. Embracing a pawn sacrifice to open lines offers dynamic counterplay. Developing a knight here opens critical diagonals and pressures black's pawn structure, setting up a dynamic middle game. Unleashing the bishop to d6 aims to accelerate development and potentially challenge white's central pawn structure, though it does leave the kingside a touch exposed. Opening the center aggressively, white aims to seize the initiative and develop pieces freely while potentially exposing black's king. Developing the knight to e7 aims to support the central pawn push, but it neglects potential queenside expansion. Embracing the open c-file, white aims to exploit the exposed black king, a promising path. The knight's development to c6 beautifully disrupts white's central control and opens attacking diagonals for black's bishops. Pivoting the pawn creates an immediate pawn chain threat, forcing black to react defensively to prevent further territorial gains. Gambiting a pawn for central control, black now aims to disrupt white's queenside with a knight's aggressive advance. Unleashing the bishop to target squares near the enemy king, while simultaneously adding pressure to the d-pawn's defense. Unleashing the bishop to f5 now creates an immediate diagonal threat, putting pressure on white's king and potentially opening lines. Repositioning the bishop to defend the d5 pawn while preparing to contest the c-file creates a robust queenside presence. Securing the monarch provides a crucial respite, allowing black to consider pawn advancements. Finally, securing the castled king's safety, white prepares to actively contest the open central files. Expanding queenside space with a pawn thrust, black initiates a bold pawn storm, seeking counterplay and aiming to disrupt white's central control and potentially create weaknesses. Asserting control over the central dark squares, white aims to disrupt black's burgeoning queenside pawn mass and exploit the open diagonals. Unleashing the bishop to either weaken dark squares around white's king creates immediate pressure. Unleashing the rook targets black's cramped kingside, potentially opening decisive attacking lines. Re-establishing piece coordination is paramount. The bishop finds a more active diagonal, eyeing potential weaknesses around white's king. Securing the king on the open file avoids immediate threats and prepares for a more active middle game. Boldly challenging the central pawn structure, this move injects immediate tactical complexity and demands precise calculation from white. Reclaiming the knight solidifies your central control, opening avenues for your remaining pieces. Reclaiming the knight reestablishes material balance, but the kingside remains structurally compromised due to the f-pawn's absence, potentially offering white attacking avenues. A surprising repositioning, aiming to reclaim the initiative by placing the rook on its most active file after black's aggressive pawn push. Aggressively contesting the queenside now, black sacrifices pawn structure for dynamic counterplay, hoping to disrupt white's central dominance. Reclaiming the bishop tidies up the queenside pawn structure, preparing a more harmonious development while black's pawns remain somewhat exposed. Reclaiming the pawn is sound, but placing your queen on a potentially vulnerable square may invite further positional pressure from white's active pieces. This move shores up the d5 pawn, solidifying white's central control and preparing for further development. Re-establishing central influence, black repositions their rook to a potentially active file while eyeing the weakened kingside. Developing the bishop to a more active diagonal opens lines for the queen and eyes the d5 pawn. Reclaiming the initiative, black boldly redirects forces toward the weakened kingside, igniting crucial central counterplay. Initiating a knight maneuver to a powerful outpost, aiming to disrupt black's coordination and target the weakened queenside. Sacrificing the queen here completely derails black's initiative and opens avenues for white's pieces. Regaining material, this redeployment finally addresses white's initiative and seeks to neutralize black's queenside activity. Squeezing the rook into the second rank creates immediate pressure and disrupts white's piece harmony. Restoring the rook to an active file prepares for a fight on the open d-file, a crucial theater of operations. Sacrificing the exchange simplifies into a potentially favorable endgame, where black's active pieces can exploit white's pawn structure. Recapturing the bishop solidifies the pawn structure, preparing to engage in the upcoming endgame with an active piece advantage. A surprising but potentially powerful placement, this bishop immediately threatens white's queenside pawns and opens up possibilities for future piece activity on the c-file. Asterisk surprising knight sortie, aiming to destabilize black's queenside pawn structure while threatening immediate tactical disruptions. Challenging white's pawn structure on the queenside, this move eyes the open c-file for future pressure. Securing the rook on the open file allows for potential pressure on black's weakened pawn structure. Reclaiming initiative, black aims to exploit the weakened queenside with active piece play. This knight maneuver aims to exploit the exposed black king and disrupt any coordination of black's remaining pieces. An overdue exchange of pieces, simplifying the board for black's queen to dominate the open lines. Opening that king's flank allows for powerful central pawn advances and increased activity. Securing the open file offers breathing room and better centralization for the rook, though the pawn structure remains somewhat compromised. Opening the c-file aims to liberate the rook, potentially creating tactical threats. A bold maneuver, this bishop seeks to disrupt white's newly fortified central pawn chain and create potential outpost opportunities. Unleashing the bishop to challenge the advanced passed pawn, but opening a door for black's rook to infiltrate. Conceding the bishop pair eliminates black's last dynamic piece, simplifying into a less active position. Clearing the path allows the knight a dynamic entry, potentially unbalancing black's pawn structure. A bold attempt to seize the initiative by creating mating threats on the queen side. Simplifying the pawn structure opens a pathway for your rook, aiming to pressure black's isolated queenside pawns. Probing the open d-file now, threatening to infiltrate and disrupt white's pawn structure. This knight's repositioning eyes the precarious pawn structure, aiming to disrupt black's queenside control. Unpacking black's passed pawn, this advance initiates a decisive endgame struggle for the queenside advantage.